the Minnesota Senate Energy, Utilities, Environment, and Climate Committee will please come to order. It is Wednesday, April 9th, 2025. It's about 12:35 p.m. and we're here in the Minnesota Senate building in room 1150. A quorum is present. Members, as you may know, the one bill on the agenda is the Senate Omnibus Energy Policy and Finance Bill. That is Senate File 2393. There are several amendments, and the chair would like to start by offering the A10 amendment. Members, you should have the A10 there.
Mr. Chair, I can offer that amendment for you if you'd like.
Senator Klein offers the A10 amendment. I think what we'll do is have Mr. Mueller explain this. This is a technical amendment. Mr. Mueller? Yeah.
Mr. Chairman and members, the A10 amendment is a technical amendment. The first part on line 1.3 of the amendment just puts the correct number for the budget base in the tails for the Energy Division of Commerce going into the next biennium. And lines 1.4 through 1.8, there is a transfer in the bill, and this is some new language that has been worked out with MMB for forecasting transfers into the next biennium.
Thank you, Mr. Mueller. Members, any questions for Mr. Mueller or comments to the A10? Seeing none, all in favor of adopting the A10, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. The motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. Senator Dibble, we have an amendment, the A4.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to offer the A4.
Senator Dibble offers the A4 amendment. Senator Dibble, you should take a moment to just walk us through that amendment, please.
Certainly, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Chair, what the A4 amendment does is to allow for the continuation of the various low-income energy assistance programs that we've established in the state of Minnesota, delinking some of the criteria and measures and indications of qualification for those programs from information and data that we might receive from, for example, the federal government. I think this concern arose with the termination of all of the employees at the federal level who administer the LIHEAP, the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program, as well as some pretty serious evisceration of housing and urban development. Both of those have established indices and income thresholds and the like that link back to our LIHEAP and our Low Income Energy Assistance Program. So this creates the D-link so that we can continue to support people in Minnesota even if the federal government fails in its duties. I can go into more particular detail if you're interested.
No, but thank you, Senator Dibble, for flagging this and for doing excellent work on it. The chair intends to vote yes on this amendment, but first we'll go to member comments. I have Senator Matthews first, then we'll go to Senator Gruenhagen. Senator Matthews.
Mr. Chair and Senator Dibble, is this amendment going to end up spending more money?
Senator Dibble.
Mr. Chair, Senator Matthews, I don't believe it will. I mean, there's no indication that we're going to be coming back in and backfilling anything from the federal government, at least not at this point. It doesn't appropriate any dollars.
Senator Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just trying to figure out how we make that jump if it's going to change and say that it'll be based on recognition from a state, how you can then make that jump and say state funds will be filling in more of these definitions with the same amount of money. I guess that's the only question I'm trying to get sorted out in my mind.
My understanding, Senator Matthews, it's a good question, is that we're changing the definition to avoid any implications from the federal government on LIHEAP that would prevent currently eligible Minnesotans from receiving low-income heating assistance. Senator Dibble, do you want to add anything to that?
Thank you. Yeah, Senator Matthews, if you look at lines 1.6 to 1.10, that's simply providing a definition for low income. If you look at section 6 to qualify for the low income electric rate discount, it delinks customers who have received assistance from LIHEAP so that they can continue to qualify for that. LIHEAP may no longer exist at the federal level. And so we don't want to simply abandon Minnesotans just because the federal government has essentially failed Line 2.3, a similar provision, links another program to participation in LIHEAP. That's not a necessary link. And likewise, the definition of low-income household over on line 3 is linked to a HUD definition, and it allows us to use other definitions of what low income is. So these are all just definitional changes and delinking from a federal government that has its wheels coming off right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Dibble. Senator Matthews. All right, Senator Gruenhagen.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so where is the money coming from? Is it coming out of the RDA account, or is it appropriated from the general fund? Just for clarification.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Gruenhagen, I'm going to put this back to Senator Dibble again. Does not change the fiscal impact, changes the definition of who would be eligible. Let's go to Senator Dibble. Senator Dibble.
Mr. Chair, Senator Gruenhagen, I'll repeat, this is a technical amendment only. It's not a new program. It's not an appropriation. It's providing definitions for qualification for programs that exist in Minnesota already, delinking those from federal definitions, because obviously we have a lot of these federal programs and agencies and services are being eliminated. The entire staff of LIHEAP has been fired.
Yep.
LIHEAP at the federal level isn't happening anymore. But we need to be able to continue to take care of Minnesotans.
Thank you, Senator Dibble.
Okay.
Senator Gruenhagen, you're good. Members, other questions to the amendment? Seeing none. Senator Dibble moves the A4 amendment for adoption. All in favor of adopting the A4 say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. Next, I would like to offer the A8 amendment and speak to it. So Senator Frentz offers the A8 amendment.
Senator Frentz, I'd be glad to offer that amendment.
Thank you, Senator Klein. So members, after deep consultation with our hardworking and talented advocacy group, the A8 amendment would remove the provision in the Omnibus bill that would change the definition of large hydro. There's a number of ways to look at this. As the author of the bill, I think this is the better move for us as we move the Omnibus forward. As I talked with stakeholders, that limit is not going to change any large hydro that's built in Minnesota. And I do think the better plan is to take it out. So the chair will be supporting the A8 amendment. Happy to take comments from members. And I did speak with the ranking member on this yesterday just to give him a heads up that that would be the amendment. Let's go to Senator Gruenhagen and then Senator Matthews. Senator Gruenhagen.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so does that mean that we've still got that 100-watt cap or whatever stays in place? Is that what that means?
That's exactly what it means, Senator Gruenhagen. This was one of the changes to the 100% clean energy by 2040 bill, and was originally Senator Eichhorn. Senator Matthews took it over. And again, in consultation with stakeholders all across the spectrum, I think my motion is to pull it out. At this point, I think that's the better move.
I would ask for a roll call on that.
Okay, roll call is requested, roll call is granted. Senator Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do appreciate the heads up you gave me on this amendment. I am opposed to the amendment. I do have one thought I wanted to put before you and the committee, because it did seem like when we had the debate on this bill, we had arguments that came in that I thought went pretty way outside just what the scope of the bill is. But I do wonder if there's a way to get, kind of split the difference as far as, there's a lot of concerns raised about, there will be new hydro that'll be built and it'll suddenly be all over and it'll be filling up Minnesota rivers and waterways and all of that, which I don't think will happen because Minnesota has a very limited number of actual waterways that are strong enough to power something like this. I think some of the concern is that there are utilities today purchasing hydropower. It's already coming into the state. It's already under purchase power agreements, and they are blocked from counting above the cap on the standard. So to use some of the arguments that you've used on other technologies of why should we just use it and needlessly limit ourselves, what about some kind of language that would say stuff that's already being purchased, already being coming in, gets counted, but we can have some protection to make sure that we're not expanding it to a bunch more in-state construction and all of that. So that's a thought I've had, that I think maybe we could take a part of it down the road. Otherwise, we're going to be faced with the same argument, why do we have power that we're already purchasing, that we're already using, and you're artificially saying you can't count it against the standard when it is clearly clean energy by all intents and definitions? So I'd put that forward. I don't have language on that since this has all been moving rather quickly, but I do want to put that on your radar. I'm not voting for the A8 amendment right now, but I would like to see if there's something else that we could try to do to narrow its scope, perhaps.
Senator Matthews, I'm open to that discussion. You know, my main take was better off to pull it out at this point than leave it in, but I think what you're talking about is can we look at language that might allow existing purchases to go forward and prevent any of the further building of large hydro? Haven't thought that through, but I think it's the kind of idea the committee ought to be bouncing around. With that, respect your no vote on the amendment when it comes, one roll call. Any other members who wish to speak to the A8 amendment? Seeing none, the clerk will take the roll on the A8 amendment.
Chair Frentz,
Yes.
Senator Zhang,
Yes.
Yes. Senator Matthews, Senator Dibble,
Yes.
Senator Green,
No.
Senator Gruenhagen,
No.
Senator Hoffman, Senator Klein, Senator McEwen,
Yes.
Senator Rarick, Senator Weber,
Okay, members, Senator Hoffman is upstairs, says he'll be down in a few seconds. We're going to hold the roll open until he can get here and cast his vote, only appropriate for a member of the committee.
Say, Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I got a point of information.
Senator Gruenhagen. We're in the
Yeah,
middle
I
of a
just-
vote.
Oh, we got,
We'll come back to you, Senator Gruenhagen. Senator Hoffman, the clerk is taking the roll on the A8 amendment. The chair recommends a yes vote.
Senator Hoffman,
Yes. Okay, I'm sorry. I have to cut $1.5 billion from my human services budget. I'm upstairs, and I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. It's really is unfortunate that, you know, in the state of Minnesota, we are now talking about, you know, hurtful decisions that are going to impact so many people's lives. So I'm grateful that you guys are having this, and I'm sorry I came running in. It's not fair to you or the rest of the team. So if this amendment, I will look at it. If I say that I did it wrong, I'm going to ask for a reconsideration. So thank you.
First of all, Senator Hoffman, thanks for your work in the other jurisdiction. Passion's important. All of us have times we have to step away from the committee. That happens. We hold the board open for votes once in a while. With that, there being 6 yes votes and 5 no votes, the motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. The next amendment we have, Senator Hoffman, would be the A27, which I have you down as the author. Do you want us to wait a bit, Senator Hoffman?
If you would, that removes the large hydro from your, correct?
The A8 that we just adopted removes the large hydro language. I had A27 next on the list, but
Let me come back to the
Okay.
A8 because I probably will do a reconsideration, but I'm not going to do that right now. So thank you.
okay. Thanks very much, members. Senator Hoffman, do you want to offer the A27 at this point?
That is my amendment that I had drafted up. The answer is
Okay.
yes to
Thank
the
you.
A27.
Senator
Thank you.
Hoffman offers the A27, and we will have Mr. Mueller explain the A27. Mr. Mueller.
Mr. Chairman and members, the A27 amendment extends an appropriation from 2023 energy bill It's for the Tribal Advocacy Council on Energy. And it was originally a $300,000 appropriation, and this just extends it by 1 year to June 30th, 2026. This has no fiscal cost.
Thank you, Mr. Mueller. Senator Hoffman, do you want to speak any more to the 827?
No, Mr. Mueller did exactly what it does. We're just looking at that extension, and it should be good to go,
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Hoffman. Members, any discussion to the A27? Seeing none, all in favor of adopting the A27 amendment, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. The motion prevails, and the A27 amendment is adopted. Members, a few comments to the bill, and then we'll go to commentary and other amendments. We have some amendments at the desk. And folks, thanks for your patience. Here's the chair's comment on where we are now with the bill on data centers. There's been a lot of work done in the last few weeks on data centers. We have advocates and stakeholders all across the board. The language in this bill is not complete. Senator Matthews and I have discussed this many times. It is our intention to put forward this partial language with the clear understanding that in order to become law, additional work would need to be done. The bill as a standalone was heard in the Senate Environment Committee last night, but unfortunately was laid over. So this is the language that we're moving forward. Senator Matthews, I don't know if you want to say anything about the data center bill.
No, Mr. Chair, I continuing to work on it. I know that stakeholders are making progress on it right now. I'm continuing to monitor that and have conversations on it. And I appreciate that we've got the pieces that are going in this omnibus bill as well.
Thank you. And I want to add to Senator Matthews' comments. In my discussions with Senator Matthews, who is the chief author, there don't seem to be any issues that are important to data center stakeholders that we're not talking about. So we can have discussions and amendments here today. On B100, B100 is included in this bill. That is a provision that I put in. It is Senator Weber's bill. It is known to be a position favored by members of the Minnesota Senate, and it has two basic features. B100 is cleaner, and it sends a strong signal to some Minnesotans that we're asking to come with us on our clean energy economy journey. I shared this story with some colleagues of mine earlier, but I'm a member of a rural electric co-op, Benco Electric. We just happened to have our annual meeting this Saturday. 1,400 members came. They are invested in our state's energy policy. They are invested in low-cost electricity, and they very much care about the environment. Of those 1,400, I would estimate 80 to 90% would be a yes vote on this entire bill, and B100 would be a signal to them that we are in it together for our clean energy goals. This, folks, is the reason the B100 amendment is included here. I want to add, this is for backup generation. This is for when the other source of power is out and we do not want to go without power, we want to have backup generation. I've had estimates of 50 to 100 hours per year for this generation, and what we're saying is burn B100, it is cleaner, and the alternative to backup generation, to peaking power, is that we lose power, which has all kinds of financial costs and sends the wrong signal to our ratepayers. This is about bringing an important constituency along with us. And we brag about the Senate Energy Committee being bipartisan and how we're going to do stuff that both parties can support. I'm asking members to look at B100 that way. Securitization, members, is in the bill. I have not been contacted by anybody who finds that controversial. Happy to have members comment on securitization for CenterPoint and talk about these extraordinary events. Net metering. This, again, comes to us from rural constituencies who have questions, like in community solar. What is the most cost-efficient way to deliver clean energy? It is no secret the Senate position 2 years ago was to sunset the community solar garden program, not because we don't want people to invest in clean energy. We have a 100% clean energy mandate by 2040, but because that method is more expensive than other methods, and we have no permission from Minnesota ratepayers to choose a more expensive pathway. With that, and understanding we got some other discussion to have here, we'll move to member amendments or member comments. I have Senator Gruenhagen, then Senator McEwen. Let's go to Senator Gruenhagen first.
Just on that, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just on that B100, is there an hourly cap per year that a municipal can use the backup for?
There is, Senator Gruenhagen. As you may know, the Pollution Control Agency has, I believe, a 400-hour per year cap. That is language that's in the bill, but I understand, and we have, by example, 170 rural co-ops, that the average annual use of that backup generation is much less.
What if they would exceed 400 hours? What would happen?
They would not be allowed to take credit for that portion which is above the 400. Senator McEwen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I have a few amendments. I'd like to start with the A5 amendment.
Senator McEwen offers the A5 amendment. Senator, would you want to talk about it, or do you want staff to walk through it, or what's better?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm happy to
Okay.
walk through it. I
Senator-
feel comfortable.
Senator McEwen to the A5 amendment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I will just open also my comments around this amendment as well as the amendments that I will be offering after this. The first three amendments here that I'm going to offer are amendments that this committee has seen previously when we did hear the underlying bill in regard to the data centers here in the Energy Committee. I will note that we are in the middle of hearing that bill in the Environment Committee and plan to be taking that up again. So we are part way through, have just begun our discussion on that. I will also note that at yesterday's hearing, when I inquired whether there was a representative from the Amazon Corporation that could speak to some of the environmental questions that people have been raising about these data centers, including noise, including light pollution, the effect that those generators would have. When I had asked if there was anybody present, nobody stepped forward. I was told later that there was somebody out in the hallway, but that was afterward. So nobody had answered that call. So I just wanted to make sure that it's on the record that many, many questions remain about these data centers. And I'm glad that our minority lead and yourself, Mr. Chair, have had discussions about this. I have not been part of those discussions. And I'm not aware that some of the stakeholders that have been in touch with me have been a part of those discussions either. So I'm going to be looking for that as the bill goes forward. And I'm very, very concerned about the lack of work and consensus building that has been brought in. I think many people do support having data centers here in our state, but we want it to be done responsibly and we want it to be done right. So in my opinion, this bill needs a lot of work to address broader issues around data centers and the concerns that all of the stakeholders and Minnesotans have. So to the A5 amendment, as I said, people have seen this before, and these also were posted. This is based on an underlying bill authored by our colleague, Senator Liskey, of which I am a co-author. What it would do is dictate that a municipality has to, when they're considering these data centers, be considering them in industrial districts. As we know, many of these are enormous facilities that produce a lot of noise, that use tremendous amounts of electricity and water, a lot of lighting. They're industrial. And I believe that our colleague had authored this bill initially based on concerns that he had heard from constituents and people around the state who found themselves all of a sudden hearing about a data center that was being brought in that would be very close to their home and maybe was in a district where it shouldn't really have been considered for permitting in the first place. So that is what the A5 does. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator McEwen. Members, questions or comments for Senator McEwen or to the amendment itself? The A5, Senator Gruenhagen.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I am also a co-author on this bill. And the thing is, where is the author yourself, Mr. Frentz, on this amendment?
Senator Gruenhagen, I would be a no vote on the amendment, but that is not based so much philosophically as my pledge to the stakeholders and to Senator Matthews that we're not done. And I sort of envision some big grand discussion where someday everyone goes, okay, we can live with this. And Senator McEwen, you have my pledge that if you have stakeholders who have said they have not been able to contact or be involved, that they would be involved. So I'd be a no on the amendment. That is different from me saying that the language is ready to go in its final form here.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, that's good enough for me. I think that you and Senator Matthews and with stakeholders discuss this, because we have a data center in my hometown, actually, Glencoe, and it does create a certain level of noise for houses right across the street, and that is a concern. So with that, I'll be a no also. with your assurance that you will discuss this.
Thank you, Senator Gruenhagen. Members, other questions or comments for Senator McEwen on the A5? Members, we're going to vote on the A5 then. All in favor of adopting the A5, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Nay. The motion does not.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask for a division.
All right, a division requested, division granted. Senator McEwen. We're going to do a roll call.
No, she said division.
Just a division.
All those in favor?
Members, all in favor of the A5 amendment, raise your hands. All opposed, raise your hands. The motion does not prevail and the amendment is not adopted. Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move now to the A6 amendment.
Senator McEwen moves the A6 amendment. Again, Senator McEwen, do you want staff to go through it or do you want to comment on it?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This will be very brief. This, again, is an amendment that we've seen previously. The bill, as we know, as written, gives a certificate of need exception to all data centers across the state. And I believe, in part, it seems in direct response to a unanimous PUC decision 4-0 that said that they did need to obtain a certificate of need. They didn't have an exception to that. They needed to get one, so that this would undo that and make it so they wouldn't have to receive one. The A6 amendment would make the bill specific to the Becker site only. So the question has been, and I know that the bill author has said that this does not apply only to Becker and was not meant to apply only to Becker, but I think that it would give some people a little assurance that those people in Becker who do want this to go forward could with the adoption of this amendment, but the rest of us who are very concerned about data centers in the rest of the state wouldn't have this blanket exception lobbed on to all data centers and then have to deal with that. This would just be site-specific to Becker. Thank you.
Senator McEwen, thank you for that. You had brought this discussion up before. I'm going to go to Senator Matthews, who, of course, has an interest in Becker. Adoption of this amendment, members, does not seem to change the chair's philosophy that we're not there yet on our data center language. However, Senator Matthews, it's your bill. If you would not mind commenting on the A6.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just reiterate what we said at the previous hearing when we saw this amendment. With all due respect to Senator McEwen, I'm not in support of even helping my own district solely, so I'm still a no vote on this amendment.
All right, thank you for that, Senator Matthews. Members, any other comments to the A6? Further commentary? Senator McEwen, you make an excellent point about the Public Utilities Commission, and I think part of our pledge that this language is not in its final form respects that the PUC's made certain rulings, and I think the final deal, if we get one on data centers, will address that issue. And backup generation in percentage terms may be small, but I know it's important to some of the stakeholders that you're interested in helping. With that, the chair would be a no on the amendment. Any further commentary before we put it to a vote? Seeing none. Anybody calling for roll call or anything? I'm not seeing any. All in favor of the A6 amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Nay. Motion does not prevail and the amendment is not adopted. Senator McEwen, have you got another amendment?
I do, Mr. Chair. Thank you. I have the A7.
Senator McEwen offers the A7 amendment. Senator McEwen to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In testimony on this bill and in the presentation both here in the Energy Committee and in our Environment Committee that we're currently still doing, we did hear a lot of talk about this being really just an emergency backup bill. The bill is just about emergency backup. We heard a lot from the bill's author about just the small amount of time that these would be used for, that this is just for emergency backup. So my question and what this amendment tries to address is if the bill is purely for emergency backup purposes for that type of generation, why are there no limitations or language in the bill stating that it is just for emergency use? So this amendment would limit diesel backup generators to be able to run a max of 50 hours unless the grid is down. And I would note that in Amazon's Public Utilities Commission filing, they did say that the emergency backup generators are generally expected to run less than 15 hours per year for necessary equipment testing and maintenance, plus in extraordinary circumstances of utility outages and other power interruptions. So 50 is very generous, I think, and provides a lot of flexibility there. This amendment would also prohibit use of diesel backup to reduce costs when power is at its highest cost, unless the grid is at capacity and the PUC gives the thumbs up to do so to prevent brown or blackouts to other customers. It would also require the PUC to examine the cost and feasibility of data centers using on-site backup and primary generation that is not diesel-fired and report its findings and recommendations.
Senator McEwen, not bad. I don't see any inherent, harm in talking about what is and what is not emergency backup generation. But again, with permission, members, I'm going to go to Senator Matthews on the amendment. Senator Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've reiterated this a couple of times in the committees, and I'm happy to do it again. There is limiting language that's in my bill. It's the section that has the citations according to my understanding, the citations to Minnesota Rules 7007 dot, and then there's like 5 or 6 of them that are all in 7007. So that is the limiting part. I don't see this language as being needed. I'm asking members to vote no on this A7 amendment.
Thank you, Senator Matthews. Members, other comments to the A7 amendment? The chair, sorry, Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that. And if the language is duplicative, I certainly think we could take a look at that. But I do respectfully ask that in the spirit of cooperation, as this bill is apparently not ready, not complete, but is moving forward in the spirit of collaboration, I would ask that it be considered, even if duplicative, and if later it could be taken out if it's found to be duplicative. And I would also note, I just wanted to make sure that people know that in subdivision 4 of the A7, there is also a requirement that a location which uses a combination of emergency backup generators at a single site with a combined capacity of 50,000 kilowatts or more must use biodiesel fuel, which I know is something that some of our committee's members are also keen to try to advance. So with that, I respectfully ask for people's support of the A7 amendment.
Thank you, Senator McEwen. Further comment to the A7? Senator McEwen, thank you for the use of some form of biofuel in some of the amendments. I think that'll be a topic we may talk about in a minute. With that, the chair would support a no vote on the amendment. Here's my take. I think the question of what is emergency is a legitimate one. I thank you, Senator McEwen, for raising it. I wonder if the amendment were to be voted down, we'd have an opportunity to talk to some of the utilities about backup generation and see whether there's any improvement on the current emergency language. At least I would be open to that discussion. With that, Senator McEwen's A7 motion stands. Members prepared to vote. All those in favor of adopting the A7 say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Nay.
Mr. Chair, could I please have a division? I'm
Sure.
sorry.
Senator McEwen requests division. If you're an aye, please raise your hand. If you're a nay, please raise your hand. The motion does not prevail and the amendment is not adopted. Thank you, Senator McEwen. Is that all the amendments for you for now?
Mr. Chair, I only have one more
Okay.
amendment. So if we could do
Senator
that quick.
McEwen.
Thank you very much. This is the A9 amendment.
Senator McEwen offers the A9 amendment. Senator McEwen.
A19.
I believe the A9 is in your packets, members.
Should be.
Senator McEwen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Members, the A9 amendment ties the certificate of need exemption for data center backup generation to a minimum jobs guarantee. In our research, we found that other states have had bills that have tied eligibility for data center tax incentives to a minimum number of jobs guaranteed. If job creation is the argument we're making as to why we need to expedite the regulatory process for data centers, we should ask, can we at least guarantee those jobs? Some states have required that the number of jobs be paid a certain wage or a percentage of the county's median income or a total annualized compensation to employees within the state. And I'm open to discussion about how to structure this, but this is just a basic starting point of where we might also make sure that when we are granting an exception to our laws to billion-dollar corporations to build their data centers in our state and use our water and our electricity at tremendous rates that we've not fully flushed out yet, that we would at the least, at the very minimum, have some job guarantees tied to that. So that's what the 8-9 does. Thank you.
Senator McEwen, again, thank you for raising a completely legitimate issue. I do know a little bit, members, about other states and some of the arrangements they've come to with data centers. I also think there are some stakeholders in Minnesota who have at least asked that question. I would refer members to members of the groups that are talking, including labor, to see what's possible. And of course, this is one of the things, members, that if we were to vote down this amendment, which would be the chair's vote, does not prevent us from having that discussion about jobs. But we'll go to Senator Matthews and then Senator Klein. Senator Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question I'll put before the body. Have we ever required minimum job requirements for any of the solar projects we've done for the last 10 years?
Thank you, Senator Matthews. I don't recall ever requiring a certain jobs guarantee, but I have not been here the longest. I see Senator Rarick raising his hand. Senator Rarick, this is to Senator Matthews' question? Oh, okay. Senator McEwen.
Mr. Chair, maybe this same question is have any of the solar projects or bills ever required an exemption to a certificate of need?
Thank you, Senator McEwen. I think what I'm hearing is serve and volley, but not necessarily evidence that there have been a job requirements on other energy projects. Member Senator Matthews poses the question. We're still on the A9. Now we're going to go to Senator Klein. Senator Klein.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I have to say that the idea is appealing and that we would guarantee that some of these large corporations would actually deliver on the job prospects that they have promised. I am not sort of knowledgeable enough about the expectations or what other states have done to vote yes on this amendment today, but I do encourage you to consider it going forward. I'm not sure if 1,000 jobs over 10 years means okay to do 700 up front and then 300 over the next 9, or what it means exactly. But I encourage you, Mr. Chair, to consider this concept as you move into the final stages of this bill.
It sounds to me like another vote for the concept without a yes vote on the amendment. Members, Senator Rarick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess as I look at this and as I heard the explanation of how this is applied in other states, this is around, economic development and such. If we remember back to the testimony from the Department of Commerce, this certificate of need is basically looking at what is the need for the backup generation. And it's pretty clear you're looking at what's the load of that facility. We're just saying, why go through the process of a certificate of need when we absolutely know what the demand is for the backup generation? So I agree, this is a concept that could be looked at. I don't think it's appropriate under the certificate of need portion of the bill, but it could definitely be things if we're looking at tax incentives, things like that. That would be the appropriate use of this language, not with the certificate of need.
Senator Rarick sounds to me like another yes vote for the concept of Senator McEwen's amendment, but a no vote on the amendment itself. Members may be aware that there's a bill in a tax committee jurisdiction that relates to data centers. We are here today only on the energy provisions of it. But to your point, Senator Rarick, one of the things I think we have looked at is the percentage of the load that the backup generation would represent and just how much of a give is that for data centers if they get an exemption. My view is that that's a get for data centers, but not that big a one. And that would have to be part of a larger negotiation. With that, Senator Gruenhagen.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a comment too. I'd be a no vote on this. The problem with government setting a mandate for jobs is it kind of ignores the reality of technology developments. You know what I mean? In other words, when we developed automobiles, guess what? The buggy whip people went out of business, okay? I mean, we're handcuffing certain businesses and saying you've got to do it this way because we, the government, think so. And I guess the best illustration I'd give is, we need government. Just like football game needs referees because of human nature. So we need government. But we don't need the referee in. Hey, pay attention. No.
I'm with Senator Hoffman that we're going to have engraved in granite your comment that we need government.
We need government.
Senator Gruenhagen.
Just like you need a ref in a football game, but you don't need the ref in the huddle calling the plays. and this amendment puts the ref in the huddle calling the plays. Would you go to a football game where the ref called the plays and threw a flag and took them 15 yards down the field? You wouldn't do that. We
No, I
need a
would still
ref.
go.
We don't need them in the huddle calling the plays. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator
Vote no.
Gruenhagen. Members, we are still on Senator McEwen's A9, a couple votes for the concept. Are there other comments to the A9 as we go forward? Seeing none, we'll now vote on the A9. All in favor of adopting the A9, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Nay. The motion does not prevail, and the amendment is not adopted. Senator McEwen, have you had a chance to offer the amendments you're interested in right now? Okay, members, continuing on, I have Senator Dibble. We'll go to Senator Dibble. Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just carrying on the theme of data centers, I'd like to offer the A19 amendment.
Senator Dibble offers the A19 amendment. Senator Dibble, do you want to speak to it, or would you like the staff to speak to it?
Mr. Chair, I can speak to it. It's fairly straightforward. It would prohibit data centers from being constructed within 1,500 feet of residential homes. It's similar in spirit to an amendment offered earlier by Senator McEwen. It's just a little bit more specific, and I think it actually probably speaks to a specific issue that's going on in the South Metro, so we're just trying to show some sensitivity to that particular circumstance. As Senator Gruenhagen said, they are disruptive to the peaceful enjoyment of one's private property in their home. And so this is an attempt to create some mitigation in terms of space so that the vibration and the other elements that might disrupt your happy repose in your home could be addressed.
Thank you, Senator Dibble. Again, I'd like to go to Senator Matthews as the chief author. Two amendments as they're offered does not prevent members from their own comments or votes on the amendments. Senator Matthews to the A19, if you have any comments.
Mr. Chair, just briefly, I think this is something that each political subdivision, each city should take care of and address with their own zoning. Right now, I'm not going to be in favor of just throwing a 1,500 feet number on it, applying statewide. So I think this should be best solved with each local zoning situation. I'm a no vote on the amendment.
Thank you, Senator Matthews. Given Senator Matthews as the chief author's position, and also given kind of the spirit that we're going to put it out there in this current form and then negotiate the data center from here out, the chair will be a no vote, but other member comments to the A19. Senator Gruenhagen, do you have a comment?
Yeah. Well, I got a situation in my hometown, Glencoe, and they put the data center right across the street from a residential area. So if there is some, I don't support this as far as a fixed amount. I mean, local communities, but some type of wording that the nearness to a residential area should be taken into consideration as far as zoning, I think would be a good suggestion for local communities to think about, because it has caused a lot of angst by having it so close to it's an industrial area, but it's right across the street from a residential area. And anyway, those are just my so I am a no, but I see what they're trying to say.
All right, thank you, Senator Gruenhagen. We're going to go to Senator McEwen and then to the chair, Senator McEwen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I would like to lend my support to the A19 amendment. And I just wanted to raise an issue that has sort of struck me as I introduced my amendments and heard some of the discussion around this particular underlying bill.
Can't have group homes 1,300 feet from one.
This is where we should be doing the work on this bill. It makes me very, very uncomfortable that we wouldn't adopt amendment like this, even as a placeholder. If people are uncomfortable with a 1,500-foot limitation, then, as the chair has duly noted, he and the author of this bill are planning to sit down and hammer out some details of this bill and maybe listen to some other concerns and do some more work on it before they consider it finished. This should be part of that discussion. There should be added something about limiting the placement of these massive data centers, which we have heard from constituents around the state are very concerned about this. Let's put a placeholder in the bill. We can talk about the details as we move forward. But again, I'm very concerned to see what I definitely see as a bill that just is really just about taking the guardrails off these the backup generation and then having to seek a certificate of need, again, which the PUC, by a vote of 4-0, said they did need. So what I'm seeing is a bill that takes away the guardrails, and every attempt to try to put some guardrails back up, even for discussion's sake. We know that this bill will not be in the final form. Those are being rejected and said, well, we'll talk about this. I don't think even the PUC has been consulted about their jurisdiction having been removed by this bill. You know, I certainly think that a lot of our environmental groups haven't been duly consulted about a lot of their concerns. So I encourage people to vote for this if you're at all on the fence, even just as a placeholder, and then if you want to see a change in that number, that work can continue. But I really would be much more comfortable if we did that work here in committee. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator McEwen. It's a good point about doing work in committee. A couple points from the chair. First of all, members, we will recall that the environmental review language was accepted by Senator Matthews and was put on the bill. That is language that includes on line 2517 that the commission must consider the effects of the proposed project upon the natural and socioeconomic environments compared to the effects of reasonable alternatives. So that, to Senator Dibble's amendment, I do think language is actually in the bill at this point that requires the commission to consider those factors, but it's a fair point that we could be more specific. The chair's a no vote on the amendment because I think this language preserves our right to have that discussion. With that, any other member comments to the A19? Senator Dibble, any final words? Members, all in favor of adopting the A19, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. No. The amendment does not prevail. The motion does not prevail, and the amendment is not adopted. Thank you, Senator Dibble. Members, other amendments? Senator Dibble.
Mr. Chair, I'll follow your lead. I have a series of amendments. I can go through them quickly.
Senator Dibble,
Or as
not
quickly as
only
possible.
do we welcome your amendments, but they do not have to be quick. Senator
All right.
Dibble.
Well, the sooner we get out of here, the better for me. I've got a big committee hearing in just a little bit. Looks like Senator Hoffman's quite busy right now.
I am.
All right, so Mr. Chair, I'd like to offer the A21 amendment.
Senator Dibble offers the A21 amendment. Senator Dibble, do you want to speak to it?
Yes, Mr. Chair, should be in your packets, and this has to do with the use of biofuel for peaking plants, and the points I'd like to make in support of the A21 are similar to what we heard in the hearings, points I made as well. Then we have, a docket in front of the PUC as we speak, and the PUC is taking a look at whether or not we can sweep in alternative fuels like biofuels in the carbon-free standard or not. Carbon-free standard is technology neutral, as you well know. I think we heard some pretty compelling testimony that while biodiesel may be better than, regular diesel, I wouldn't disagree with that. It's not carbon-free. It is better, but there are other sort of environmental implications and considerations to think about when using biodiesel, and particularly for purposes like this. And so this will create a carve-out, and kind of paradoxically or ironically, it would create a carve-out for a type of fuel specifically named in the 100% renewable energy standard that isn't in fact carbon-free. So maybe the PUC will say this is great and it should be swept in, maybe not, or maybe yes, but under some conditions. And it'd be great to find out the results of that deliberation that's occurring in a very public way with a lot of input and back and forth rather than putting our thumb on the scale. So I would speak in favor of the A21.
Thank you, Senator Dibble. Well said. Members, other comments to the A21? I'd normally go to Senator Matthews next. Senator Matthews, do you want to comment on the A21? Yep. I can go to Senator Weber, who authored that particular provision. Senator Weber.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I oppose this amendment. I think it's important to understand that at this point in time, this is for a backup, for a generator here with peaking facility, I should say. This is one of the cleanest option that is available for that. And with the limitation of 400 hours on those facilities, I think it is a reasonable accommodation. It still preserves the the clean energy concept. Is it 100% clean energy? No, it's not. But as I stated earlier, it's the closest we're going to get for those type of facilities.
Thank you, Senator Weber. Senator Matthews, do you want to comment on the amendment? Members, other comments? The chair has a thought or two. Senator Dibble, I will acknowledge the B100 inclusion here is probably the one I heard the most about over the last few days. And I do think I understand the concern given the pending decisions at the PUC and some of the commentary. Here's why I will be voting against the amendment. First of all, again, we're trying to bring the state of Minnesota along on our clean energy goals. This is a powerful statement to some in Minnesota, including rural co-ops, farmers, those that live outside the metro area, that we are part of this together, and a simple way to send that signal. I realize stakeholders and some members of this committee do not want to send that signal in that way. That's fine. Second, to the PUC, which I'm a fan of the PUC and their work. We do from time to time send a message to the Public Utilities Commission, like when we passed the 100% clean energy by 2040 bill. This would be an additional signal to them. And while they in the process of considering that, I think that's something this committee should do when it finds the support for it. And with that, Senator Dibble, I respectfully will be a no vote on it, but appreciate it, and you are true to your core character. Members, other comments before we vote on the A21? Seeing none, all in favor of adopting the A21, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Nay. No. All right, the motion does not prevail and the amendment is not adopted. Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to offer the A24.
Senator Dibble offers the A24 amendment. Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is similar to the amendment I just offered, but it has to do with eliminating biomass as a specific carve-out, as well as refuse-derived fuel. So just throwing one in for extra measure there so we can have more fun talking about it. The points that I would make are the same. The PUC is literally in the middle of doing a study. They have a docket. They're examining what is advisable in terms of what we're considering carbon-free for the purpose of the carbon-free standard. And long had an issue with refuse-derived fuel, garbage incineration, shown absolutely not to be carbon neutral and shown to provide a lot of other pollutants that affect the public's health. And I know we have the HERC carve out an exception and stuff, but got this stuff going on all over the place. So that is my amendments, and I would appreciate support. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Dibble. Well said. Members' commentary or questions for the author on the A24 amendment? Senator Green.
I'm a little confused now too, because didn't we just strike Section 8?
Senator Green, you ask a good question. That's why Ms. Severson is now going to shed some light on this. Ms. Severson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So yes, we did just adopt the A8 amendment, which takes out this section. However, when the amendment was drafted, it was changing the same provision of law that this is in this Section 8. So instead of having duplicate sections, it was drafted to the existing section. However, now that it's taken it out, we would probably have to redraft the amendment to reflect a new section of law to take out what is the A24 is doing.
Thank you, Ms. Severson. Senator Green, do you want to follow up? I'm going to go to Senator Hoffman otherwise, Senator Hoffman.
Or I could reconsider the A8 and we'll bring it back to the table, and then you won't have to redraft anything. So give me time to do that, because I do want to reconsider that when my moment comes up.
Senator Hoffman,
would fix this problem.
I do have reconsideration on there. Senator Dibble, do you want to pull the A24 at this point? Senator Dibble?
Mr. Chair, if we could go to Senator Hoffman's.
Okay. All right, let's do it this way. Senator Dibble withdraws the A24 amendment. Members, we did have a request from Senator Hoffman for reconsideration, so now we're going to go to Senator Hoffman. Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I am being on the prevailing side because, it's not every day that you're actually having to deal with the fact you're going to probably shut down disability services, not shutting them down, just capping the growth. It's the same thing. But I do want to reconsider how I voted on the A8, Mr. Chair.
Senator Hoffman moves to reconsider the vote on the A8 amendment. Senator Hoffman, do you want to speak to your motion to reconsider?
Yeah, I knew why, Mr. Chair, thank you. And to that point, as we're talking about the big system, right, when you're looking at hydro is changing, and now you're looking at some things like hydro pumps, you're looking at some other, the discussion was there, and I believe you and Senator Matthews were having discussions with other people in the energy world, and that, I think eliminating that takes us away from that conversation. I think it's good that we still have that conversation going. MERS, you're looking at 86,000 and some change of, kilowatt hours that are sitting on the docket. So I think getting that out, keeping that out of the discussion, I think is not good policy. I think putting it back in, this is good policy. So with that, I would like to reconsider my vote and ask for a yes vote on the A8.
Thank you. Senator Hoffman moves that the vote on the A8 amendment be reconsidered. All right, all in favor of the motion to reconsider of Senator Hoffman, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
The motion prevails, and the motion for reconsideration is granted. I believe the next step would be we would re-vote. All right, I don't recall whether we had a request for roll call on the A8. Okay. All right, we have.
Yeah, there was.
We have the staff
Glenn
is telling
laughed
us
at me
we
after
had
I
a
voted.
request for a roll call, so the clerk will call the roll after the successful motion for reconsideration. But first, Senator Dibble.
Thank you. I would encourage a yes vote for the A8, the chair's amendments, and I think he offers it with sound reasoning, which is going back to the original reason why we kept massive mega hydro from out of state, out of counting towards the total, and that's because it very, very quickly shoves out some of the co-benefits that we might be able to enjoy from renewable energy in terms of local economic development opportunities and advancing the renewable energy products and services and sources of energy within the state of Minnesota and benefiting our local economies. This would wipe that out, and we'd have a lot of gigantic hydro coming from Manitoba, from Missouri River, et cetera, and it would be a shame to lose that. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Dibble. We're going to go to Senator Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Hoffman asked me to reiterate what I said earlier because it was before he came in. Just my idea that I pitched to you is maybe there's some language we can figure out with this to separate hydroelectricity that we're already purchasing and having shipped in and provided to Minnesota customers be fully counted under this cap while protecting the concerns about any new big hydro that would be built in Minnesota, which I don't believe there'd be much of because of not having many Minnesota bodies of water that would power something at that size. But that's my idea that I pitched to you. I'm happy to keep working on it with you after this and would support putting the A8 onto the bill. No, I would support voting the A8 down to keep the original language in the bill.
All right, thank you, Senator Matthews. So Senator Matthews is a no vote on the A8 with the consideration of possible additional language discussion. Thank you, Senator Matthews. Senator Gruenhagen.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I would agree with Senator Hoffman's summary that by voting no on the A8, it leaves it in for discussion. And I think we heard from Senator Matthews some of the reasons to that, and you seem to agree with that. So I think we should vote no on the A8, leave it out, and let the discussion happen.
Thank you, Senator Gruenhagen. Senator McEwen, and then we'll go to Senator Hoffman. Senator McEwen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I didn't get a chance to make this comment when we were considering the A8 initially, so I wanted to go ahead and do it now. As I recall, when we did have a hearing on this bill, I had a lot of questions at that time about what was behind this bill, why we needed it, who brought it, why. Where were these large hydro dams? Where is this electricity coming from? And I recall that our former colleague, the lead author of the bill at that time, talked a lot about a beautiful hydro dam in his community of Grand Rapids, which didn't apply at all to the bill before us. So I have a lot of questions about what was up with that bill, and I never had them answered. I think it's also not correct, that by not having this language in the bill, that it will still be open for discussion. Again, I encourage all of us to go ahead and to not have it in there as a starting point. And I'm sorry, I said that wrong. But I would like us to not have this in there as starting point, and for the promoters of the bill to actually have to demonstrate the need for this and what is behind it before we would actually have it in the bill in the first place. So I fully support the A8, and I encourage people to vote yes on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator McEwen. Senator Hoffman.
So to that point, Mr. Chair, not that I want, for the public record, Senator Gruenhagen did agree with John Hoffman, so I just want people to get that. Senator Jerry Newton, the Coon Rapids Dam, I know why I remember had this conversation at first was they could only, we wanted to be, he said, get it back to be hydroelectric. Anybody here remember Jerry for years doing that? They could only do one bay because of this stipulation, and it would be nice if, half that or even the whole part of that Coon Rapids Dam could be that. So I think we should keep it, the language in here, so vote no is what I'm saying. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Hoffman. Members, further comment before we vote on the A8. The chair is going to stay yes. It was my attempt to signal the stakeholder community that I thought it was probably better to take it out at this point. However, good news for Senator McEwen and Senator Gruenhagen, which I always say on every vote we take. The discussion is clearly going to continue. So with that, the chair will be a yes. And with that, if there's no further comment, the clerk will take the roll. Mr. Ernest.
Chair Frentz,
Yes.
Senator Zhang,
Yes.
Senator Matthews,
No.
Senator Dibble,
Yes.
Senator Green, Senator Gruenhagen, Senator Hoffman,
No.
Senator Klein, Senator McEwen,
Yes.
Senator Rarick, Senator Weber.
No.
Members, there being 5 yes votes and 6 no votes, the motion does not prevail and the A8 amendment is not adopted. But good discussion by members anyway. Who would like to go next, members? Senator Dibble, and then after Senator Dibble, Senator Zhang. Senator Dibble.
So, Mr. Chair, I was a little unclear. Were we going to try to revamp the A24 so that it would work with the?
Let's have Ms. Severson make it a little more clear. Ms. Severson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, now that the A8 has not been added on, the A24 will work if it does get added. Yeah.
So, Mr. Chair.
Senator Dibble, clear enough?
Yes.
Okay.
Of course. I wasn't thinking.
Crystal.
We don't need to do that. So I would like to offer the A24.
Senator Dibble offers the A24 amendment. Senator Dibble.
So, Mr. Chair, as I had mentioned earlier, this removes biomass and refuse-derived fuel as eligible energy sources for the renewable energy standard.
Thank you, Senator Dibble. Members, questions or comments to Senator Dibble's amendment? The chair would be a no on the amendment, but understanding the arguments both sides. Further member commentary. Senator Matthews, do you want to comment? No comment from Senator Matthews. Senator Gruenhagen? Nothing? All right. Members, then we're going to go ahead and vote on the A24 amendment. All in favor of the A24 amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
No. The
Mr.
motion
Chair,
does-
could I ask for a division, please?
Senator McEwen requests a division. All those in favor, please raise their hands. All those opposed? The motion does not prevail and the amendment is not adopted. Senator Zhang, we were going to go to you. Senator Dibble, you're good for now. Senator Zhang.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for putting this bill together. I know there's been a lot of work in this. Really appreciate being your vice chair, learning under you. And I do really appreciate many of the things that are in this bill, which you've highlighted last week, but I just wanted to reiterate, the anaerobic digester for Ramsey County and Washington County, both counties of which I represent, the microgrid research funding to continue, Minnesota Energy Alley, And so, those are great things that I really love in the bill. But there's one piece that, I wanted to talk to a little bit about, which is the Community Solar Garden program. I have the A14 amendment.
Senator Zhang offers the A14 amendment. I believe that's in the packets, members. While the members get the A14 out. Senator Zhang, do you want to describe the A14?
He just said, I'm going to hate it.
Thank you, Chair. So delete on page 14, delete section 7, which is a reference to the sunset for the community solar garden program. Mr. Chair and committee members, I think it is clear from the testimony, including from the Department of Commerce, that it is too early to, quote unquote, end the experiment. There have already been comprehensive reforms to address costs, and we are trying to actively look at other options to address the issues of costs. Impact on ratepayers, to cap the program and address bevy of other stakeholder issues. These changes were stakeholder driven over a period of years, culminating in the 2023 session reforms. The new program, it barely got off the ground, and the costs discussed in this session from the fuel clause on down are mostly legacy program costs. The Department of Commerce, their LMI Community Solar Garden program is a net benefit to the state of Minnesota with an estimated $3 billion in net benefits to the state. The bill, with the section there, it inequitably damages our clean energy transition and the ability of LMI Minnesotans and renters to participate in our transition at a moment when we need more rather than less solar and are facing seismic issues at the federal level. This policy instability, revoking what is meant to be stable, long-term program so soon after the 2023 reforms, damages Minnesota's reputation as a place to do business and puts at risk investments already made and in progress in green energy in our state. As stated multiple times by the department, terminating the program jeopardizes more than $60 million in federal solar for all funding. And with that, I thank you, Chair, for, I know you have to put together a lot of interest, bring a lot of different stakeholders to the table. I am on this bill, and I do really appreciate many of the provisions in here, but I would really love to see Community Solar Garden given a second look. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator
And I
Zhang.
ask for a yes vote, please.
Thank you, Senator Zhang. Well stated, members. To the A14 amendment, Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would encourage a yes vote to Senator Zhang's amendments for all the reasons he just stated. I will only recite one, which is we've experienced a lot of change. We don't know if those changes are wholly effective, but it's been good work on your part. We're kind of pulling the rug out from under a bunch of folks. And, if we could go with utility scale everywhere, but that would be a shame because we'd lose an opportunity for a lot of people to participate in solar who would otherwise not have the opportunity.
Thank you, Senator Dibble. Members, Senator McEwen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator Zhang, for bringing this amendment. I also want to encourage a yes, and I won't go into any further detail, but I spoke a lot on this when we had heard it earlier in committee, and I very much believe that we should keep this program in place and want it to continue. So encourage a yes vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator McEwen. Members, other comments to the A14? The chair has a comment or two, Senator Zhang. First of all, thank you. You're an outstanding vice chair. You work hard. You understand the bill, and I appreciate your partnership on this. I know you got your hands full in state government, too. The chair will be a no vote on this amendment. Just want to review with stakeholders where that comes from. First of all, this committee is one that I take a certain amount of pride in for being bipartisan. And it was the Senate position in 2023, when the new program came around, that we would sunset community solar. Senator Zhang, you make an excellent point. the majority of the above-market costs that are in the fuel clause now actually come from the legacy program. So score one for Senator Zhang on that. Having said that, the PUC docket, where they changed from ARR to VOS, did a good job looking at the issue and talking about costs. And I think if you read through the submissions at the PUC there, you'll see that the issue that makes community solar a cost question in Minnesota includes the involuntary obligating of the non-subscribing ratepayers, which is rare, if not unique, around the country. Included in that PUC packet was the Attorney General's letter in which they talked about the history of the Community Solar Garden program in Minnesota. And I want to make clear for the 1 billionth time, if the point of community solar was to introduce solar and solar developers to Minnesota, it has been an unquestioned success. This provision in the bill attempts to do is to declare victory on that part of it and move to what is now a mature market where we can build more solar, the lower the cost. I also like the bipartisan nature of this committee, and this is one that I was proud that the Senate position was to sunset community solar. Finally, to your excellent point, Senator Zhang, about giving the program a chance, the bill language would sunset the program in 2028. I have talked to the Department of Commerce about the federal money and how that might be affected, and I think we should continue some discussions. We do not want to do anything which prevents taxpayer dollars that are otherwise coming to Minnesota from coming here. That seems to raise a question of the dates of the sunset, and you have my pledge, Senator Zhang, that if your amendment is not adopted, we can continue that discussion. At the end of the day, once again, we're trying to bring the public with us. We're trying to have the public, greater Minnesota, suburban and urban, say we're with you on your clean energy goals. This comes from a number of ratepayers who are waking up, as they are in net metering, to saying, I do want solar. I don't want to do it in a way that's more expensive. And with that, the chair will be a no vote on the A14. Members? All right. With that, all in favor of adopting the A14 amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no. No. The motion.
Mr. Chair, could I please have a division?
Senator McEwen requests a division. Members, those who are a yes vote, please raise their hands. Those that are a no, please raise their hands. Thank you for that, members. The motion does not prevail and the amendment is not adopted. Senator Zhang.
Thank you, Chair. Last one, and they'll be quick. We've talked a lot about it already. But I have the A22 amendment, and it'll be passed out. But it's looking at the Amazon bill that we've had plenty of discussion on, and respectfully to Senator Matthews, I think the bill is not ready for prime time. There is nothing in here about ratepayer protections or environmental protections. While I understand Amazon is looking for assurance, they would have it. They would have had it by now if they had filed for the certificate of need, with a certificate of need exemption with the PUC. And so I cannot support this provision until, there's a robust ratepayer protections package included. Therefore, I ask that we remove the provision with this amendment here.
Thank you, Senator Zhang. Well stated. Members, the A22 should be in your packets. Let's have member discussion on the A22. Senator Matthews, do you want to comment on the A22?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Zhang. Appreciate the discussion that we've had. We're going to continue a lot of discussion on it, but I'm not supportive of the A22 at this time.
Thank you, Senator Matthews. Are there other member comments or questions on the A22 amendment? Senator McEwen?
Thank you. I would encourage a yes vote, obviously, on this amendment. And it is my opinion as well that the bill is certainly not ready to move forward in an omnibus budget bill. It needs a lot of work. And it is still currently being heard in environment, and our environmental questions have not been answered at all. So respectfully would ask for a yes vote on the A22.
Thank you, Senator McEwen. Other member comments, questions, or concerns? Seeing none, we'll put the A22 amendment to a vote. The chair will remain a no on the amendment with the repeated pledge. There's more work to do on the data center provisions in the bill. All members in favor of adopting the A22, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed, say nay. No. The motion.
Division, please.
Division requested, division granted. All those in favor of the A22 amendment, please raise their hand. All those opposed, please raise their hand. The motion does not prevail, and the amendment is not adopted. Thank you, Senator Zhang. Further amendment, Senator Zhang? Members?
Not for the moment.
Okay, Senator Dibble and then Senator Green. Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hopefully can move through these quickly. So I would like to offer the A15 amendment, A15.
Senator Dibble offers the A15 amendment. Members, that should be in your packet. Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. This would eliminate the sections having to do with net metering. Mr. Chair, I believe that these changes are a bit rushed, quite controversial. There's been significant opposition, consistent ask for more data, and data has been forthcoming from residents and installers, farmers, Department of Commerce. We don't exactly know what the impact of this change is going to be and what the compensation rate will be going in the future. This is a 40-year-old law, and it's a fairly comprehensive change. It works against Minnesota's renewable energy goals, and it's one of the only tools that Minnesota residents have to directly control their energy bills and participate themselves in the clean energy transition. And the concerns about the cost shift, which is the basis that in the prevailing rationale for these changes, has been addressed already. Co-ops have the ability, as munis do, to charge additional fees, such as grid access fees, et cetera. So I think this is not ready for the prime time. There's a lot of work and a lot of pledges to do a lot of work on this particular question. What is the proper rate of compensation, sizing, et cetera? This proposal goes too far, too fast. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Dibble. Member comments to the A15. The chair will have a couple. Senator Rarick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate that. I think, we've had a lot of discussions this session especially, but this has been being talked about for quite a while. This isn't a new subject. I think the intention of individual solar is to help offset your own cost. And what this bill is getting at is folks who have been overbuilding to use it as a source of revenue, which then limits the number of other people who have that ability to do it in our small rural co-ops and municipalities. So I think this bill is getting at what we need to so that it actually encourages more folks to get into it and not use your small individual solar as a means of your own revenue. It should be used as a means to offset your use and getting at more folks to do that. So I would be opposed to the amendment.
Thank you, Senator Rarick. Members, other comments to the A15? All right, seeing none. Senator Dibble, thank you for your engagement on net metering. Thank you to the stakeholders that have worked on this. The chair will be a no vote, and here are just a couple reasons why. First of all, the subject of net metering goes to size to load, goes to people who want to build solar for their own use will still be able to do so under this bill. If someone has a certain use on their farm or in their home, they can still build to it. That's a good thing. It's the overbuilding that I think this portion of the bill attempts to address. And Senator Dibble, it does have the grandfather clause that, although was not offered here in the Senate, is now in there. So will not affect any existing relationships or any of our rural co-ops or any of the net metering relationships that already exist. Finally, if it's true that building your own solar for your own use is still a viable option, and we're only attempting to restrict the overbuilding here, then under this language, Minnesotans will still be able to build up to 40. They'll still be able to put it on there. If it's still a cost-effective way to do it, they will still do that. I think one of my points has always been, Senator Dibble, we're a 100% clean energy state by 2040. So we're going to be building clean energy. The question is how reliable and how affordable is it? And I think this is an attempt to say this way can still be built for your own use, on your own property, but the overbuilding does not fit our goals. And the less we pay for solar, the more we can build. With that, the chair will be a no vote on the A15. All right, members, let's vote. All those in favor of adopting the A15 amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. 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 The motion does not prevail. The amendment is not adopted. Thank you, Senator Dibble. Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So let me give a try on the A26.
Senator Dibble, with a smile on his face, offers the A26.
So, Mr. Chair, the A26 would accomplish the goals of the A15 but then would allow for a study using RDF funds. And the request of the study is to answer some of the questions that are before us, some of which I mentioned a moment ago, a comparison of statutes with similar statutes in other jurisdictions, comparing compensation structure, how different utility customers are compensated, how rates differ, classes of customers, capacity limits, infrastructure impacts, needed infrastructure upgrades, how those are prioritized and funded, how regulations and penalties are structured, as well as an analysis of the cost and benefits to all ratepayers of net metering, and a comparison with the cost and benefits to ratepayers of other potential options for encouraging adoption of solar electricity generation in the state. And finally, an analysis of how net metering impacts interconnection and infrastructure upgrade needs and challenges. So maybe we can get all that information in front of us before we take the fairly dramatic step that's contained in the legislation before us.
Thank you, Senator Dibble. Members' comments, questions, or concerns to the A26. Not only did Senator Dibble have a smile on his face, but now Senator Rarick has a smile on his face. Senator Rarick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This brings me back to my RCAC interviews, and one of our student candidates who mentioned Minnesota maybe shouldn't be known as the land of 10,000 lakes, but the land of 10,000 studies. I think we have a lot of information about this in front of us. I think the time is right to do something. I have looked through, we've got a couple of other amendments that I think are getting at some points that we are talking about, and we'll have further discussions as this moves forward. So I don't believe that not moving forward and switching to a study is correct at this time, so I would oppose the amendment.
Thank you, Senator Rarick. Members, further commentary to the A26. The chair has a couple. Senator Dibble, I'm troubled by the same, questions about a safe transition, having all the information, but I'm a no vote on the amendment. And I look to the state of California, which has been a leader in solar energy, and some of the choices, tough choices that they made on net metering. And I think we're ready to go with the language we have, or another way to put it would be, I prefer leaving it the way it is to a study. I respect the idea of a study. We've tried some studies in other cases. Sometimes they help a lot, sometimes not so much. With that, the chair will be a no on the A26. Any further comment, members, to the A26? Let's put it to a vote. All those in favor of the A26, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. No.
Division, please, Mr.
Division requested, division granted. If you are a yes vote on the A26, please raise your hand. If you are a no, please raise your hand. The motion does not prevail and the amendment is not adopted. Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to offer the A18 amendment.
Senator Dibble offers the A18 amendment. And I believe that's in your packet, members. Senator Dibble to the A18.
So this has to do with what is the rate that we're going to pay. And we have a lot of discussion about the benefits to those who don't have their own distributed generation. We hear a lot about that, avoided cost, et cetera, et cetera. This has to do with value of solar, of course. Avoided cost is a marginal sub-wholesale rate that not only is not used for the sale of electricity by any generating utility, but fails to take into account the transmission and distribution costs saved by distributed generation, as well as the social costs of carbon. So, Mr. Chair, we've had a lot of discussion of the value of solar rate, but it does compensate for the renewable energy certificates. In turn, utilities can have the RECs transferred to them, which would allow co-ops and munis to use the RECs from their members' on-site generation to meet their 100% 2040 carbon-free goals. Win-win. Avoided cost, all the things that distributed solar brings, stabilizing the grid, all the infrastructure costs, et cetera, that we hear a lot about, plus the transfer of the RECs to those utilities helps with meeting the standards that you helped us get in Minnesota. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Dibble. Have you spoken with co-ops and munis about this particular amendment? And if so, can you share with the committee any feedback before we go, Senator Rarick?
I have not. I've spoken only with the solar energy advocacy community.
Okay. Thank you, Senator Dibble. To the A18, Senator Rarick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this is one of the amendments I was speaking to, and I said, looking at them, have interest in talking about them more, not prepared to take them today. This is a little bit different angle than what I have seen and heard talked about, but I, again, like the concept, so happy to have further discussion around this as we move forward in those negotiations, but as of today, I would prefer we do not take the amendment.
All right, thank you, Senator Rarick. I share your appreciation for some of the upside of the amendment. The chair will remain a no on the amendment as it's written, but Senator Rarick sounds like an opportunity for you and Senator Dibble and some of the stakeholders to get together. Members, other comments to the A18? Seeing none, we'll put it to a vote. Let's start by a voice vote. All those in favor of adopting the A18 say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed say nay. No. The motion does not prevail and the amendment is not adopted. Senator Dibble.
Two more quick ones here. They're just, to put ideas on the table. If you love the ideas, I'd appreciate a yes vote, but we're just trying to get some of these fix-up ideas into the mix. So the next amendment I'd like to offer is the A23.
Senator Dibble offers the A23 amendment. Senator Dibble to the amendment. Members, it is in your packet.
So this, Mr. Chair, has to do with aggregating meters for multi-meter customers. I think there might be a misunderstanding how some of these distributed solar generators operate. This is already required in investor-owned utility territory, such as for farmers or other customers. In order for the bill credit mechanism to properly and fairly offset a customer's total load, their net export and consumption across all of their meters must be aggregated. Oftentimes, for example, on a farm operation, the solar array is tied to one meter while their primary consumption, grain bins, et cetera, are tied to other meters. So this would aggregate all these meters to make sure that the necessary bill credits are accurately applied across all costs and exports. Thank you.
Senator Dibble, not only am I a yes on the A23 amendment, but thank you for picking up on some of the conversations that address existing meter systems and those, including agriculture, which have multiple. And it seems to me Senator Rarick serves some of our goals in this case. The chair would be a yes vote on the A23. Senator Rarick, would you like to comment on it?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is one of the provisions we've been working on and discussing around. I'll be voting no today, but it is definitely a piece that is going to be continue to be talked about as well.
Thank you, Senator Rarick. Members, other comments to the A23? Okay, the chair encourages a yes vote on the A23. Members, let's put it to a vote. All those in favor of the A23 say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed say nay. No. The motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. And we'll go now to Senator Dibble for the final amendment proposal he has.
So I would like to offer the A17 amendment.
Senator Dibble offers the A17. Members, in your packet, Senator Dibble to the A17.
Which I thought of completely on my own because I have this level of detailed technical knowledge about how exactly this all works. So it has to do with the grandfathering that you spoke of earlier, and this would make the grandfathering work better. And I'll just read from the notes that I wrote myself. As noted by the Department of Commerce in the hearing in the House, the grandfathering clause needs to apply to interconnection application date rather than the operation date. The applications are signed and submitted in conversation with both the installer and the Department of Commerce. It may be weeks or months before the array comes online, depending on how long it takes the utility to process the application and the installer to build the array. Under the current language, some folks already under contract to build a solar system who base their decision on current law would fall under the requirement of the changes. And if we're going to make this much of a change, it would be necessary to extend that cutoff point so people who are currently considering their investment can continue to pursue their process. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Dibble, and thank you for coming back to an issue, which is the timing. Again, the chair will be a yes vote on the A17. Members trying to balance the interests here. We do not want to prejudice Minnesotans who are further along with that. Member comments or questions to the A17? Senator Hoffman.
Mr. Chair, just like in the past when we would always do like a pilot, you know, it's like, what do we got against pilots? In this case, what does the good senator from Minneapolis have against grandfathers? I'm tired of the, you know, the grandfathering, and I'm a yes.
Senator Hoffman is a yes. Senator Rarick?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I mean, I get the concept of saying folks who are looking at this should be able to, but I think extending a year and a half is a bit excessive. I think people who are looking at it would be doing it this year. I think if we're doing that, 2025 would be far more appropriate, saying to the end of this year, rather than going a year and a half out. If we stay at 26, I am absolutely opposed. I'd probably still be a vote no today at 25, but would be far more open to considering that as discussions go on.
Thank you, Senator Rarick. Members, other comments to the A17? Senator Rarick, it's a great point. I think we're looking for a little bit of balance on this issue, so the chair will remain a yes vote on the amendment, but a totally legitimate point and clearly more conversation to come on that should the amendment go on. Any other member comments to the amendment? Seeing none, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The amendment is adopted. The motion prevails. Thank you with that. Senator Dibble, have we exhausted it? You ended on a hot streak of the last two adopted. We're going to go to Senator Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to offer the A25.
Senator Green offers the A25 amendment. I don't know that we have it in our packets quite yet, members, so we'll have it handed out here. Senator Green, I think everyone now has a copy of the A25.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The A25, as you know, I'm not shy about trying to look after the ratepayers more than anything. And I was, you know, as I read through our bills, and it seems like the RDA becomes more of a slush fund all the time, and we are already moving into the renewables more and more all the time. So, and right now, if my numbers are right, it looks like there was $32 million in that account, and as after it spends what's been adopted in the bill, there's still $10.5 million in that remains. And so what the A25 will do is it will change the formula and actually allow this money to be sent back to the ratepayers in the form of credits. And then it would also extend into the future. It won't affect the money that's supposed to go out for fiscal year 2026. But beyond that, then it'll be a savings to the ratepayers under that account.
Thank you, Senator Green. Another legitimate topic being taken up in the other body as well. So members, questions, comments for Senator Green to the amendment? Senator Gruenhagen.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I would be a yes vote on this amendment. You know, we had testimony, I believe it was by the PUC and some of their testifiers, that, if I remember right, that 36% of Minnesotans can't pay their energy bills or are struggling to pay it, okay? 36%. That's over a third. That's only 14% from 50%, okay? And I gave examples of situations in my own life where I helped people pay their energy bill because they were deciding between prescriptions and to pay their electricity bill or heating bill or whatever. So I definitely think some type of credit back would be helpful to any of those people who are struggling to pay it, and that it takes us in the right direction, that money just isn't sitting there waiting to be used in some program, but rather goes back to the actual people who paid it in, which are the ratepayers. So members, please vote yes on this amendment, and I'd ask for a roll call.
Thank you, Senator Gruenhagen. Roll call requested, roll call granted. Senator Green, talking a little bit with SCRFA, this would have a $5 million general fund appropriation that is above the target, so the chair will be a no vote on the amendment, but perfectly willing to engage further on RDA in general or the question of credits in particular. Senator Klein.
Mr. Chair, I'm interested in how this amendment generates that appropriation. Can SCRFA speak?
I'd be happy to put that to Mr. Mueller. Thank you, Senator Klein. Mr. Mueller.
Mr. Chairman and members, there's on Section 8 of the appropriation on page 5, it requires a $5 million appropriation from the general fund to pay the solar energy production incentives that are currently in the books under 1167792, since the RDA would not be paying those amounts. So it's sort of a backfill after the RDA is sunsetted, that it would require general fund money to pay those.
Thank you, Mr. Mueller. Senator Klein, any follow-up before we go to Senator Hoffman? Senator Klein.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Council. Yeah, I think the idea of sort of looking at some of these aging funds and seeing if they still meet their purposes is valid. And certainly the role of this committee, RDA, is obviously the biggest one in our jurisdiction. We should introduce this as a bill next year and really consider it. For now, I'm a no on the amendment because of the appropriation from general fund.
Thank you, Senator Klein. We're going to go to Senator Hoffman.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Mueller, is there, this is really good. I like this. I actually asked Greenie if he wrote this, and he said, yeah, I would tell you yes, but then he smiled. So how do you make this neutral, Mr. Chair? I mean, if this conceptual idea, it makes sense to me. Is there a way is there something in here that would, I guess I'm asking advice, how do you make this a neutral amendment that would
Mr.
get
Chair,
the motion going?
Thank you, Senator Hoffman. Let's go to Senator Green first, and then Senator Green, if you want Mr. Mueller to make further comment or inform that. Senator Green.
I would, like Mr. Mueller, if you look at page 4, line 29, there is an appropriation in there that does cancel back to the general fund. And so I'm just wondering if that's was, because this should have been, the money that's coming out, if you look at this, and obviously you come up with ideas and I don't have the ability to write the bills, you tell people what you want and then you get it, right? Okay, so the money that is existing in the RDA that cancels back should cover that last year in 2026. And if I'm wrong and there people are still in favor of this bill, certainly we could work on that as well.
Thank you, Senator Green. Let's see if Mr. Mueller can inform us a little bit here. Mr. Mueller.
Mr. Chairman and Senator Green and members, that's true, but what I don't know, and we'd have to get a fiscal note on this, and to know if the amount that would cancel back would cover that other $5 million. This is introduced as a separate bill, but we would have to further look at the balances in these funds and when they cancel and how it all works to see if it is neutral.
Thank you, Mr. Mueller. Senator Green, we can go to Senator Matthews, or do you want to follow that up? Oh. Okay, Senator Matthews.
Mr. Chair, and maybe a question for council, does the amendment still work if we removed section 8 out of the amendment and just did the rest of the language, or does that put something else out of line?
Thank you, Senator Matthews. I'm assuming you mean, does it still work from a fiscal standpoint? All right, Mr. Mueller.
Mr. Chairman and members, from the general fund target standpoint, yes, after taking section 8 out of the amendment, it would not cost us any additional general fund money. The issue is the RDA appropriations that are already in the bill. There's $20 million appropriated from the RDA for fiscal year 26 in Article 2 of the bill, and depending on how much is in the balance before the RDA would sunset, I would have to check if those $20 million worth of projects already in the bill would be in jeopardy if the RDA is not putting new money into that account to pay for those appropriations.
Thank you, Mr. Mueller. As far as it goes, Senator Matthews, do you want any follow-up on that? All right, Senator Hoffman.
Mr. Chair, to that point, in another committee where we have these questions waiting for fiscal notes, I asked Senator Green if there's not been a fiscal note that's approved, but there's a clause that you could do. Since we don't know the true cost of this, we can carry the language forward either to finance or even to the floor with the understanding, and the committee's got to be aware of this, if Mr. Mueller comes back and there is a fiscal note that's attached to it, then this just falls off the plate, or we have to make the accommodations to see where you can fit that in. That's an option that's there, if the chair would be willing to do that. I like this conceptual conversation. I just think you've got to keep this going somehow, and that's one way, that's an alternative without adhering to a fiscal. So we don't have a fiscal note. So what? If we get one, it's the understanding that we all have to agree it's going to take it off. Glenn, you weren't on the committee then, but we did that last year and the year before in Human Services just because I don't know if you looked, but 30%, 25% of the population is 65 and older now in Minnesota, and so you're seeing the costs go up. So, Mr. Chair, it's just an idea to help get this conversation.
I appreciate that, Senator Hoffman. That is an option. This is Senator Green's amendment. I think with the questions we still have before us, I'm probably more inclined to Senator Klein's position, which is this has got legs, let's talk about it, but probably wouldn't be a yes vote on this amendment. Having said that, let's go back to the author of the amendment. Senator Hoffman's put out an alternative. Senator Green, back to you.
I very much like that alternative, Mr. Chair. I think that would be a fair way to move forward, and it would put protections in. And then if the people are still in favor of this style of amendment, we can certainly work those issues out.
All right, thank you, Senator Green. Members, other comments to the amendment? Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No matter what happens with the amendment, if it gets revised or not, I would be a no vote, just because, you know, we should just keep in mind what we're doing here is eliminating the Renewable Development Account. That is a big deal and a big conversation. To Senator Klein's point, if it's a worthy conversation, then it should be introduced as a bill, and we should have that debate and discussion, because the Renewable Development Funds and Renewable Development Account has done just an incredible amount of work up to this point in Minnesota to set the stage, and continues to do that work to help prepare us for our energy future.
Thank you, Senator Dibble. Yeah, again, the chair tends to agree with the idea that it's a worthy idea, it takes some looking, but I probably would say a no vote for me on the amendment, consistent with the idea that we'd be back to it. Having said that, free country, members can vote their conscience. Further commentary on the amendment as proposed?
Mr. Chair.
Senator Green.
Just to avoid any conflict with division, let's just do a roll call.
Senator Green requests a roll call. Roll call granted. Further commentary? With that, the clerk will take the roll on the A25 amendment.
Chair Frentz?
No.
Senator Zhang?
Yes.
Senator Matthews? Yes. Senator Dibble?
No.
Senator Green?
Yes.
Senator Gruenhagen?
Yes.
Senator Hoffman?
Aye.
Senator Klein?
No.
Senator McEwen?
No.
Senator Rarick?
Yes.
Senator Weber?
Yes.
Thank you, members. There being 7 yes votes and 4 no votes, the motion does prevail and the amendment is adopted. Senator Green?
Thank you very much.
That's it. All right, thank you, Senator Green. Members, Senator Rarick and then Senator Gruenhagen. Senator Rarick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to offer the A13 amendment.
Senator Rarick offers the A13 amendment. Senator Rarick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A13 is dealing with something very similar to what we're dealing with the biodiesel. And did the members have the amendment, or is it being passed out?
Well, Senator Rarick, I think it's just being passed out.
Okay.
This is the A13, right?
Correct. You want me
Okay.
to speak to it while it's being passed out?
Senator
or wait?
Rarick, if you would speak to the amendment while it's being passed out. Members, we're having this handed out. You should have it in a minute.
Okay.
Senator Rarick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, this is a bill that we heard in committee. Senator Farnsworth brought it forward, and it is dealing with using the combustible remains from our logging industry, allowing this to be counted in electric generation. Members, what we are asking you to consider is that, do we agree that it is not carbon-free? Yes, we do. But as the industry explained, if we leave these remnants out on the forest floor, they actually would emit more carbon back into the atmosphere. So it's beneficial to use it. Now, if we use this for, say, industrial heat uses, that is perfectly fine. But we're saying, but if you use it for electric generation, that's not acceptable. I think this is something that helps the industry, the logging industry, just as the biodiesel does the farming industry. And it's something that, in the end, as they talked about, it has a net zero impact because this emission is going out into the atmosphere one way or another. By using it this way, we can use carbon capture methods as well to make it cleaner. This makes sense to make this industry be able to use what it already has out there, make it more viable. We can acknowledge that, yes, it's not 100% carbon-free, but it is better. It is a good use of this material and is a better use than others. So I would ask the committee to accept the amendment.
Thank you, Senator Rarick. Members' comments, questions to the A13 amendment? Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, for the same reasons that I spoke to in the amendments that I offered, if every single product group, industry category can just come to the legislature, carve out an exemption from the, 100% carbon-free standard, pretty soon we don't have a 100% carbon-free standard. We have a docket in front of the PUC that's helping us work through these questions and these issues. If the arguments that Senator Rarick make hold up to the scrutiny and the science and the policy that we had in mind when we passed that bill in the first place, because of course we know we have a pretty grim future if we don't get a hold of our carbon emissions, then this product and this particular source will be a part of the renewable energy standard. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Dibble. Members, other comments, questions to the A13? The chair did speak with Senator Farnsworth on this. I understand the economic development. I'm not even sure how I'll vote if we go to a roll call, but members free to vote their districts or whatever priorities they have. Are there any other comments to the A13? Is there a request for a roll call? Senator Matthews requests a roll call requested, roll call granted. Further comments before we put it to a vote? The clerk will take the roll.
Chair Frentz,
Pass.
Senator Zhang,
No.
Senator Matthews, Senator Dibble,
No.
Senator Green, Senator Gruenhagen, Senator Hoffman,
Yes.
Senator Klein, Senator McEwen,
No.
Senator Rarick, Senator Weber.
Senator Klein, I intended my pass to be like a full pass, but there's nothing wrong, I think, before we call the vote, for any member that wants to move to reconsider or change their vote. Senator Klein, do you want to change from a pass to something else? You do? What would you like to change it to, Senator Klein? No. Senator Klein votes no. There being 6 yes votes and 4 no votes, the motion does prevail and the amendment is adopted. Senator Gruenhagen.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I'd like to offer the A11 amendment.
Senator Gruenhagen offers the A11 amendment.
I don't know if you have that in your packet or not.
I think we're going to have to pass it out. Perhaps, Senator, you could speak to it while it's being
Sure.
passed out.
Yeah, what the A11 does, it excludes co-ops and munis from the 2040 mandate, and it does leave investor-owned utilities under the 24 mandate. You know, members, if you remember last year during testimony, we had a lot of testimony. I've talked to my local co-ops. They can't reach the 100% by 2040. And that's going to put them into a situation, unless there's some major breakthrough, where they're going to have to buy carbon credits. I don't know if the current administration is going to allow that or not, but basically they're just worthless pieces of paper that they have to buy if they're not 100% to 2040. And that cost is going to be millions of dollars across this state, and it's going to drive up electricity rates even higher in a situation where we have, like I mentioned before, over 36% of ratepayers cannot pay or struggle to pay their electric bill. The other thing, members, I think by leaving it in with XL, you get to see if it works first and what technology comes online and actually would help the outstate people who right now are going to struggle to meet that 2040 goal. I know this is a big step, but on the other hand, I would reference this, members. Prior to session, I sent a email to both Democrats and Republicans of 1,600 well-qualified scientists who signed a petition that said there is no climate crisis. 1,600 scientists. Second thing I would reference, in the late 90s, over 31,000 U.S. scientists signed a petition, 9,000 with PhDs, and you can look it up on the internet, that said that increased CO2 is not a negative, it's a positive. It creates lush vegetation and things grow better. So, members, we're putting our rural co-ops in an untenable situation, and by adopting this amendment, you still get to see how the 100% carbon-free or 2040 bill would work, but at the same time, you don't put the added expense onto our rural co-ops, especially to try to meet that when we know they can't. Again, if there is no technological breakthrough, you're going to force them to buy carbon credits, which are worthless pieces of paper that are going to cost millions of dollars. And somebody's going to get rich off this. Unfortunately, it won't be the ratepayers or the co-ops in the state of Minnesota. So, members, I encourage a green vote and stand for questions.
Thank you, Senator Gruenhagen. To the A11 members, questions, comments? Seeing none, the chair has a couple comments. Senator Gruenhagen, it's okay for us to disagree in committee. In fact, I think that's healthy democracy. I think Minnesota's going to meet the 100% goal by 2040, and I think we're going to be proud of it. I'm going to vote no on your amendment for a couple of reasons. First of all, this is not even part of the MREA legislative agenda. So our rural co-ops have not brought this forward to the Senate saying this is legislation we want you to pass. They are partners with us in the 100%, and it's no secret that MREA and MMUA were persuaded to go to neutral on the 100% bill only after several assurances and accommodations. But finally, Senator Gruenhagen, I am pitching to you, all our members in both parties on this committee, we're trying to do something as a state, and the idea that we would divide the rural co-ops from Excel territory, which includes the great city of Mankato, by the way, I think goes a different direction I want to go. So members, I'll be a no on the amendment, but appreciate your thoughts, Senator Gruenhagen. Members, other comments to the A11? Senator Gruenhagen.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, the other thing I'd ask is a roll call.
Roll call requested, roll call granted. Senator Gruenhagen.
And members, remember, we want science, and there's a growing body of scientific evidence, both in the past and currently, that the climate change, better known as global warming, then to climate change, and in the 70s, we were going to freeze to death. I don't know if you remember that. The sky is not falling, and we don't need government to spend billions of dollars artificially inflating our electricity costs and undermining the base load. So members, think about your ratepayers. Here's an opportunity to still see how the 2040 works, but not to push these rural co-ops into buying worthless carbon credits, which is going to drive up electricity costs for everybody. So please vote green.
Thank you, Senator Gruenhagen. Further member comments. Again, the chair remains a hard no on this amendment. And I would just say the cost to our ratepayers are not limited to their electric bills. We've had two $50 billion climate-related storms in the last 12 months in this country alone. And it's okay if we disagree on this too, Senator Gruenhagen, but I think climate change is so well documented that I don't hear that much about it, even when I run around the state, including no mention of it at my annual luncheon for Benco Rural Co-op this Saturday. With that, members, we should put it to a vote, don't you think, Senator?
Sure.
Thank you. A roll call was requested. The clerk will take the roll on the A11 amendment.
Chair Frentz,
No.
Senator Zhang,
No. No.
Senator Matthews. Yes. Senator Dibble,
No.
Senator Green. Yes. Senator Gruenhagen. Yes. Senator Hoffman,
No.
Senator Klein.
No.
Senator McEwen,
No.
Senator Rarick. Yes. Senator Weber.
Yes.
Members, there being 5 yes votes and 6 no votes, the motion does not prevail and the amendment is not adopted. Senator Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have one amendment, and I will be brief on it. I will offer the A12 amendment, and I will request a roll call.
Senator Matthews offers the A12 amendment. A roll call requested. Roll call granted. Senator Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do believe it needs to be passed out, but it is only one line, so it won't be a long amendment at all. Mr. Chair, the amendment, the A12, is Senate File 1429, which is chief authored by Senator Rasmussen. I am signed on to the bill as a co-author, and it is going to clarify and streamline the 100% law to clarify that the law does not apply to electricity generated outside of Minnesota. Mr. Chair, I've jokingly referred at this to you that this is to help defeat a future court case of North Dakota v. Frentz, because I believe that there is a pretty good likelihood that this is going to be litigated, and I think there is a good chance that a federal court is going to find this part of the law in violation of the Dormant Commerce Clause. It appears that North Dakota and their new governor administration has already sent letters to Minnesota indicating their concerns with the law. It looks like they are on the pathway to potential litigation, though they haven't, to my knowledge, they haven't crossed that threshold and promised it yet. But I do believe that this does run a pretty good risk of violating the constitutional clause of a state trying to impose their regulations over state lines and regulating in other states. So I'd ask members to support the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Matthews. Well done, brief and to the point. Members, questions or comments to the A12 amendment? Senator Gruenhagen?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator Matthews, for bringing this forward. I'm a definite yes. Just remind everybody, yesterday, I believe it was, President Trump signed an executive order reinvigorating clean new coal plants. Not only are new ones going to be built, other ones are not going to be torn down, and they're going to reinvigorate a resource that we have hundreds of years of that can be done cleanly and good for the environment and provides inexpensive baseload electricity. So please vote yes on this. Remember, we had a similar, if memory serves me, we had a similar lawsuit from North Dakota a few years ago. It cost us over $1 million, if I remember right. We paid their legal fees, we lost the case, and we are violating the constitutional clause that Senator Matthews referenced. So again, we're $6 billion short. Let's not pile on with another lawsuit and having to pay another state more money. Please vote yes.
Thank you, Senator Gruenhagen. Excuse me for the momentary discussion with staff. I heard you mention that we have hundreds of years of coal, and I was going to ask, do you know how many years of sun or wind we have left?
But it doesn't provide, no.
Just kidding. All right. I will be a no vote on the amendment. I respect the right of every state to litigate. I think that's how some disputes get resolved. I look forward to the discussion about whether the state of Minnesota can regulate Minnesota utilities and the energy they consume and they sell to ratepayers, but that is for a courtroom, not for this committee. Members, any further comments? Senator Zhang.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to ask for reconsideration of A25.
Senator Zhang, we will take the motion for reconsideration on the A25. Let's continue our work on the A12 first, members. If that's right, let's deal with the A12. Staying on the A12, I have Senator McEwen, then Senator Dibble. Senator McEwen, on the
Thank-
on the A12.
On the A12, to the A12, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Because our discussion on this amendment and the previous one have gone into some very broad claims about climate change, I did just take a moment, because I didn't see this email from our colleague, Senator Gruenhagen, about that referenced this letter from the 1,600 scientists or so. So I did go back and I found the email and I clicked on the link to check and see what the story is there. And I regret to tell you that the link doesn't work any longer, but brings you to a page called the CO2 Coalition, which I think is a climate denial organization. And then when I looked up this study to find out what it was all about and who would have signed it, it sounds like an analysis of the signatories found that not all of them were scientists. Some were from other professions, doctors, lawyers, and some listed no science background at all. And I can't find an actual letter or any signatory. So I invite the good Senator Gruenhagen to perhaps find a good link, and I'd love to see it and know who these people are who signed this letter. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator McEwen. Senator, do you prefer Gruenhagen or Gruenhagen?
I answer to anything close, okay?
All right. Senator Gruenhagen.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I would just say to Senator McEwen, don't believe everything you read on the internet, okay?
Is this from the senator who sent the link? All right, Senator Gruenhagen, you have the floor.
Yeah.
On the A12.
Again, look up the 31,000 scientists, 9,000 with PhDs. Also, Heritage Fund has many qualified scientists with documented books showing the 95% of scientists is a fraud. The whole thing is a fraud. All it's going to do is drive up our cost and hurt our environment directly. So I would respectfully disagree with Senator McEwen's conclusion.
Thank you, Senator Gruenhagen. We're going to go to Senator Matthews. Members, again, we're on the A12 right now. Senator Matthews.
Mr. Chair, all my amendment is planning to do as a guy with a law degree is to defund some lawyers with some potential court costs. So all due respect to Senator Gruenhagen and Senator McEwen, the discussion's getting far outside the scope of my amendment. Just to limit this to generation inside of Minnesota and squash any potential future federal litigation that the state could be brought into court for.
Thank you, Senator Matthews. Members, we are still on the A12. Any further comment? Senator Dibble to the A12.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think Senator Gruenhagen actually gave us the rationale to vote no on the amendment when he cited the executive order of Donald Trump talking about ushering in the future of clean coal. First of all, I'm wondering why Senator Gruenhagen cares whether the coal is clean or not, if we're all laboring under some sort of a myth that climate change is a fallacy. But the fact of the matter is that there is no such thing as clean coal. That is the myth and the fallacy. And so I think the A12 is not well-founded, and I think we should vote no.
Thank you, Senator Dibble. Senator Gruenhagen, do you think at 2:40 we should be responding?
He just mentioned my name, though.
He did. We all do, all the time.
But
Senator
the myth and anti-science is climate change, global warming, and we're going to freeze to death. That's a scientific myth. It always has been, always will be. If you believe in dinosaurs, and I do, was the Earth warmer or colder back then? It was much warmer, much, much warmer. We could use a lot more CO2 and less green scam. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Gruenhagen. I think I'm persuaded by the evidence I've seen, some of it on the internet, that it's the industrial age in the last 170 years and the carbon that we put in the air that acts as a blanket, warming the planet a couple degrees. And like a baby, a couple degrees makes a difference, and a couple more from here, we might have a problem. Having said that, trying to stay on the A12 amendment, Senator Matthews' amendment. Any other comment, question, or concerns to the A12? We're going to put the A12 to a vote now. I believe a roll call was requested and granted. The clerk will take the roll on the A12 amendment.
Chair Frentz?
No.
Senator Zhang?
Yes.
Senator Matthews? Yes. Senator Dibble? Senator Zhang?
No.
Dibble? No. Senator Green? Senator Gruenhagen? Senator Hoffman?
No.
Senator Klein? Senator McEwen?
No.
Senator Rarick? Senator Weber?
Members, there being 5 yes votes and 6 no votes, the motion does not prevail and the amendment is not adopted. With that, we're going to go to Senator Zhang for a motion to reconsider the A25 amendment. Senator Zhang.
Do we need to make a motion to reconsider the A25 amendment?
Senator Zhang moves to reconsider the A25 amendment. Members, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of reconsidering the vote on the A25 amendment, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. The motion prevails. We are under reconsideration. Senator Zhang, any comments before we re-vote or make amendments?
Yeah, so I'd encourage a no vote on the 25.
All right, members, what we did not do on the amendment is remove the appropriation. So the chair is taking the chair's prerogative to ask staff to read what an oral amendment might be. This will not change the ultimate vote on the amendment, but it will remove the appropriation language so we'll get to finance on Friday or whenever it is, we don't get in trouble. We will then have to re-vote on the amendment. So we're taking the 5 million out. We should do that. We don't want the 5 million in there. The vote then can go back as amended to the A25. Perhaps Mr. Mueller, you could explain.
Mr. Chairman and members, the motion would be on page 5, delete section 8 on the A25 amendment.
Mr. Chair,
Senator Klein.
I offer that amendment.
Senator Klein offers the amendment. Members, any questions or concerns? Senator Matthews.
Mr. Chair, I will support that oral amendment, and if that gets approved, would then ask that the A25 as amended get repassed onto the bill.
Thank you, Senator Matthews. That's a yes vote. Suggestion from Senator Matthews. Further comments on that? All right, we are on the oral amendment to the A25. All in favor of adopting the oral amendment on the A25, say yay or aye or something like that? Aye. All opposed, say nay. All right, that amendment is adopted. Now, members, we're going to re-vote the amendment with the appropriation taken out. Seeing no request for a roll call, all those in favor of adopting the A25 say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. No. The motion does prevail. The amendment is adopted. And with that, the A25 is cleaned up. Members, that's all the amendments we have at the desk. We're going to bring a motion to send it to finance. First of all, members, I shouldn't presume. Are there other amendments that members wish to bring to the bill? Senate File 2323. All right, seeing none. The question is on the motion of Senator Dibble.
I would like to request a roll call vote.
Roll call requested, roll call granted. Thank you, Senator Dibble. The question is on the motion of Senator Klein that Senate File 2393 as amended be recommended to pass and be sent to the Committee on Finance with the additional stipulation that staff be empowered to make any technical changes to the bill that they discover following the hearing. With that, the clerk will take the roll.
Chair Frentz?
Yes.
Senator Zhang?
Yes.
Senator Matthews?
Yes.
Senator Dibble?
No.
Senator Green?
Yes.
Senator Gruenhagen?
Yes.
Senator Hoffman?
Yes.
Senator Klein?
Yes.
Senator McEwen?
No.
Senator Rarick? Senator Weber?
Yes.
There being 9 yes votes and 2 no votes, the motion prevails, and Senate File 2393 as amended is passed and sent to the Committee on Finance. Members, that's the end of our business today. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your patience. We are adjourned.